Good evening, everybody. I very much welcome you today on this very, very hot day. I'm happy that some of you came anyway. We had many registrations, but I guess many people also chose to go outside and enjoy the good weather. So I'm very thankful that at least some of you came, and I'm very happy and I welcome you warmly in the name of the International Institute for Peace. My name is Stefanie Fenkert, I'm the director here, and I very much look forward to this event today dealing with the presidential elections in Afghanistan, about the future of a war-torn country. Maybe just very briefly an introductory. We know, and many of you probably already might know, that the United States and Taliban representatives already hold around 6 talks, I think, of direct talks since October in Doha, in Qatar, in order to try to end the 18-year war in Afghanistan. Many analysts actually say that peace has never been closer in Afghanistan. However, there are also going to be elections, hopefully in September. This is the date we know for the moment. The biggest obstacle for peace, nevertheless, is still the security situation, but also the problem between the Afghan regime or the Afghan government, let's say, the Afghan government and the relationship to the Taliban, as we know that the government is not involved in these talks until now. With the upcoming elections, though, and the peace talks, hopes for a more stable Afghanistan, especially when it also comes to the rule of law or a ceasefire, are quite big at the moment. But there are also other topics, like for example the situation when it comes to human rights in general, but also the situation of women and children in Afghanistan. And I'm very happy that we will also touch upon these issues tonight. We are happy now to have 2 experts who will be focusing on the political process on the one hand, but also on the societal developments on the other hand. And I'm very happy that you came here, and I look forward to an interesting discussion and also an interesting discussion with you afterwards. Please approach the experts here. We have an expert who has been dealing very vividly, especially with these talks, and I think it is he can give us a good insight and a good glance on what will be or what can be the future of Afghanistan in the years to come. So thanks again for coming. I hand over now to our moderator, SWOBODA, who will also be introducing. Maybe just one more thing, Ms. ZERKA will be speaking in German, and we have Christa Wendel here, and she will be translating, whispering to Mr. AZAM. But also if you have afterwards, if you have questions and you want to speak in German, she probably will also be of support and will be translating. So enjoy it, and let's have an interesting talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't want to take much more time. We have FAROUQ here. He was Minister for Education and those refugees in Afghanistan. He's chairman of the Movement for Peaceful Transformation of Afghanistan. And of course, we are very keen to know what his idea of peaceful transformation is, especially together with the situation of the Taliban, but also other forces. It's not only the Taliban who are in a conflict situation. And then we have ZERKA MALYAR, founder and chairwoman of GURAF, an association supporting the rights of Afghan women and children, because I think many of the justification under Guillemets of intervention was always, yes, we fight in Afghanistan for the right of women and children, especially girls. Whatever have been the real reason or not, I don't want to put that into doubt, but I think it personally will be a disaster to forget everything about what has been at least aspired concerning the rights of women. But we will hear a lot more later. Now I have asked FAROUQ to give his talk. He already explained that he will give the talk also to us for the website, so you can read it afterwards or listen, of course, also to his talk. I think it is a rare opportunity, and again, thank you very much for coming, and please, take the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy being here. Thanks for the Institute invited me to here, and thanks for the organizers for such a beautiful gathering. And I may thank ZERKA also, who made the efforts for me being here. I'll make two separate things. One, whether election can be a solution, and the other, what is the situation now? How can we go forward? The election, Afghanistan people are used to election. In 1960s, when I was young, we had elections, fair elections, accessible to all. But in the coup of 1973, since then we didn't have a fair election. Governments were making elections, but they were fraudulent and not very transparent. In 2004, the United States asked for election in Afghanistan. People were enthusiastic to go to election, and that was to some extent good election because people cooperated. And that time, the security problem was not in Afghanistan so much. But the 2009 and the 2014 elections were fraudulent. And the parliamentary election of last year, that was name and shame, I must call it. So the main reason probably was that the elections in Afghanistan in the past 18 years, that was part of the military campaign actually. So since that was part of the military campaign, is the military didn't succeed, its product didn't succeed. So the security was other reason, and within the system, there were frauds, there were not transparency, as well as the government who was supposed to be a guarantor for the election, fair election, they themselves were in disarray because the power was a power of coalition type. So everyone was trying for their best. So that election was not promising. The question comes now in Afghanistan, in the international community, whether if the Taliban take part in the election, whether the situation will be solved. No, I don't think it will be solved, though some people in the West believe that if the Taliban come forward and take part in the election, things will be solved. Because not only the question of the Taliban is important, the government itself, by itself, that is not able to have a fair election. So if the Taliban, these warlords, join the already warlords of the Kabul government and they go to election, there will be problems. First, the Taliban will ask that the election commission should be a fair election commission. That should be neutral. The Taliban must be given guarantees that the election commission is a fair election commission. That should be a neutral one. How that guarantee can be given? Whether the government will be ready to give part to the Taliban to be included in the election commission. Because this election commission is divided between Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah, the prime minister. They have 50-50. So whether the Taliban will be allowed to have that kind of share in the election commission, so I don't think it can be. At the same time, not only the election commission membership is a problem, the election ballot boxes, they are quite important. Their security, their transportation, their counting, their keeping. So in the war situation, they are secured or handled by security, by police, by army. So whether this security apparatus can be divided between Taliban and the government, or the Taliban given opportunity to be part of the security apparatus, this is a big question. And I don't think the government is ready for that, to divide Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense or Intelligence with the Taliban. I mean, this is a long process, quite complicated. So that is also not probable. And now the Americans took a bold step towards the negotiations with the Taliban. Before, the Americans were reluctant to talk to the Taliban. The Americans were insisting that the Taliban need to talk to the Kabul government. And the Americans were saying this is the Afghan war. The Afghans must sit with Afghans. The Taliban were not sitting with the Kabul government, claiming that the Kabul government is installed by the Americans. So that struggle continued for years. Finally, the Americans broke the ice, and they came forward and talked to the Taliban. And now that is, I think, a bold step in the right direction, that at least there is a negotiation, and people are hopeful that something will come out. My understanding is that the Americans have told to the Taliban that they are going out. Americans and the NATO are going out of Afghanistan. They will leave. So, but the Afghans, as well as our neighbors, they are all asking the Americans that they go out responsible, with a way that is acceptable, that is suitable for a big power as the United States. So what responsible means? That there must be a government left behind, that civil war doesn't happen. So that is a legitimate question, that the Americans must leave responsible. What type of responsible government should be there? There are, or the Afghan government, or the Afghanistan not be a civil war there, a catastrophe doesn't happen like happened when the Soviet Union withdrew. There are several scenarios. One, which the Kabul government is expecting, that the Taliban must lay down the arms and come forward and join the government. This is the simple way. But it is a remote possibility because the Taliban are resisting. The other one is that the Kabul government think that they should resign after 18 years. Nothing happened. So for peace, let Taliban rule the country. That is another option. That is also a remote possibility, that the Kabul government leave ground for the Taliban. The other option is a mixed government, coalition government. Both come together and make united efforts and make a coalition government. My experience is this will be a catastrophe for the country, for the whole region. because the warlords that now in power in Kabul, under the pressure of the United States, international community, NATO, they cannot go together, which are taking support from certain institutions or countries. Those enemies, Taliban and the Kabul government, who fought each other, being armed, they cannot work together. So certainly war, fighting will erupt, and our neighbors will support factions, and that will lead to a civil war. So coalition government is catastrophe, and that is another option, but it is option. The other thing is that some people say, okay, Taliban has a coherent system. They have fought, they resisted. They may propose that let us have a kind of Iranian type of system. The leader and the military and the judiciary belong to Taliban, and the rest of the government belong to the people. Rouhani is president and Khamenei is. I mean, that is Iranian type. So some people suggest that to give role to Taliban in such a way. Some people suggest Pakistan type of working. Taliban have a military power but not ruling the country. The government, military is with them, but the government is at the hand of the people. Election is there, Imran Khan coming, Nawaz Sharif is coming, anyone is coming. But the military is telling that we want the system guidelines are this, you have to work within these guidelines. These are the other options. There are several other options as well that the people are talking about. One type of that I proposed, which created much noise and also resistance, that is a neutral interim administration. My long experience, I was mediating, negotiating when there was war in 1993 between warring factions between the ruling powers. I was the mediator. 83 times I went between the president and prime minister to reconcile them. And I have traveled throughout the region to seek cooperation at that time. My experience is that the Taliban fought the government. The government fought the Taliban. The government and the international community termed the Taliban, they were terrorists, anti-human rights, bad guys, to be killed. And Rumsfeld, Defense Minister of the United States, he was saying, burn them all. So the situation was like this. The whole 18 years, the international resources were devoted to kill the Taliban. They were not, at the beginning, I remember when they surrendered under the tremendous pressure from the United States international community in 2001, they were begging for amnesty. They were begging and asking, just leave us to live with our families. No one was leaving them to live there. They say, no, you have to die. So people were captured in their houses at the front of wives. They were killed. They were driven out from their houses. They were forced to be migrated. They were forced to pick arms. So the present person who is sitting in Qatar, who is the deputy of the Taliban leader and chief negotiator, Mullah Biradar, he is by clan, he is near the same as President Karzai. He is Pashtun from Karzai tribe. When the Taliban were defeated, he told Karzai that he will never stand against the government, he will never oppose the government, but please leave me to be at home. Don't force me to go to mountains or to migrate to Pakistan or Iran. After 2.5 years, every month raid upon his house, once or twice, torture. He then informed the president that, look, I begged time and again. Finally, I cannot stay here. I am going out. And now he is that. I know many people. I met, I interviewed. I am part of that country. So I met hundreds of them. I know personally, I was minister twice in Afghanistan. I was dealing with them. So they were not allowed to live in their houses. So they were forced to fight. So when they were fighting, now if you want to bring them to rule the country, neither Taliban will have such passion to forget everything, nor the government will be in that, because the government will think that, okay, the international community abandoned us and now we are vulnerable. Either they should flee or to fight. So my suggestion was, and still is, that let us find a third way out. Neither the current government will continue to rule the country and not given the Taliban opportunity to rule directly or to rule the country. Because given the Taliban, if they have opportunity, they fought the people, they fought our neighbors, because our neighbors were helping the Americans. And the Americans also, the NATO, how their relations would be with enemies, formal enemies. Given they are good, but still there will be problems. So if a neutral interim government is there, that not enemy of either side, but not directly managed or directed by either side as well. So if they are given for a certain time opportunity to do certain jobs and then leave the power to another government. I will come to this, how it can be. In Afghanistan, we have many people who have not fought, who were neutral, who were critical of the United States for invading or for this war, and critical of the Taliban as well for their own not good deeds. They kept themselves neutral, and they are famous. The people know them. We can make a list of them, and that is a kind of process, mechanism. If international community has interest, I can help. I can, due to my experience, how to create such a find such people to form neutral government. This government, our neighbors in the international community must agree that the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Afghanistan is preserved. After that, no country should throw stones toward Afghanistan. They must guarantee the security. I mean, leave that government to rule the country and not interference from outside. The other thing is that the current war, the US war, the NATO war, that must be ended. Under no pretext the war should continue. But the presence of the international community must be negotiated. Without war, how the international community can work. And Afghanistan must not be a safe haven for extremists anymore. This is another question, that this government must pledge that Afghanistan not be a safe haven for extremist organization anymore to throw stones to others. Afghanistan's soil must not be used against any country in the world. And the international, in order to be that, the international community has to be present in Afghanistan. They must work. They must help the reconstruction, and at the same time, they will see Afghanistan as going on the right direction, that is not a safe haven, and that is going well. The other thing is that so far, every country helping Afghanistan, they are coming with their bags of money, giving money to any tribe they like, to any people they like, to any individual they like. This government, which I proposed, no country in the world has the right to give money outside the government system. There must be an international monetary fund, because the world has created problem in Afghanistan. There must be give money to that fund, and the Kabul government will be using money from that one. Afghanistan must be the only source for accepting assistance and channeling that assistance towards people. Individuals in the countries must not use their assistance as a tool of favoritism, supporting this tribe over that tribe, giving that individual, supporting that individual, supporting this section of the society, supporting that. So that they must support the government. And the other point which is important, Afghanistan for the last 40 years that is in war. Illegal weapon must be collected. We cannot have fair election. We cannot have a stable Afghanistan if warlordism is not eradicated. If warlords and human rights abusers are ruling the country, you must not expect there will be the rule of law in order. So the illegal weapon must be collected. Of course, we have nomads. We have people, nomads, they need weapon for the self-defense, for defense against the thieves, for the wolves, the animals. I mean, but the government must declare that what type of weapon is permissible. So no one, no group, no person, no a group of people must challenge this power of the government. The government must be the only source of violence if it is needed. So once all these things are done, a fair and accessible to all election must take place. And in that election, the current interim administration, the interim government, neither the president, not the minister, nor the supreme judges, nor the attorney general have the right to candidate themselves. They must be out of scene. They must not take part in the coming government. So the whole effort should be to have a clear and accessible to all election, a fair election. So once that fair election will fill with full devotion is made, anyone, because the Taliban or non-Taliban, these warlords now there, or whoever is going to contest, they are free. So if anyone wins the election, that is most welcome, and this interim government will transfer power without any excuse whatsoever to that elected government. And from then, an elected process will continue according to the constitution, and the government will go on, and stability to the country will return by this way. This is what I have proposed, and but I have told you many other options that are on the table, and I am hopeful that something will come out. Because the Americans are decided that they want to go out, and the Taliban are also keen to find out the way out. Of course, big war has experienced. The Kabul government has own preservations, and it will take time, but I think things are coming up, and the things are hopeful. So different scenarios I put forward to you, that these are spoken among Afghans, among international community, different ones. Who knows what will win the ground, but at least things are moving. So the 7th round of talks are expected soon in Doha. So far, it is agreed that the Americans are going out, and the Taliban have agreed Afghanistan will not be again a place to be destabilizing others. So these 2 points agreement already made. So the next ones are for future government responsible going out. That is under discussion. So thank you very much. If you have any question, I will be more than happy. Once again, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that was very inspiring. What you said, it gives a bit of hope. For many years we lost hope. Now we have perhaps a bit of hope. Things could develop, and of course we'll have a discussion afterwards. Now, ZERKA MALYAR, it's your turn, please.
Guten Abend, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren. Zunächst möchte ich Sie willkommen heißen und mich für Ihr Erscheinen bedanken. Ich möchte mich herzlich, wenn sie auch nicht da ist, bei Penny für die Herstellung diesen Kontaktes bedanken und möchte mich bei Ihnen, Herr Dr. SWOBODA, für die Unterstützung und dir, liebe Stefanie, für die Organisation herzlich bedanken. My English is unfortunately not so good, and so I cannot present my presentation in English, so I will try it in German. Kann ich da stehen? Ich werde, damit ich das auch ein bisschen lesen kann. Ich werde da stehen. Danke. Meinst du, Rodrigo?
Não, pode poder fazer tudo isso aí, cara.
Okay, ich werde mit einer kurzen Reise in die Geschichte der Entwicklung der Frauenrechte in Afghanistan beginnen. Zunächst kurze Informationen zur Einwohnerzahl in Afghanistan. Schätzungsweise sind 34,9 Millionen und die Muttersterblichkeit ist eine der höchsten der Welt. Zwischen 800 bis 1200 Frauen sterben pro 100.000 Geburten. Außerdem die Säuglingssterblichkeiten ist auch eine der höchsten der Welt. Also in Afghanistan jeder Kind bis zum 108,5 Todesfälle gibt es in 1000 Geburten, das heißt, die Kinder zwischen 1 bis 5 Jahren sterben halt in dieser Zahl. Lebenserwartung durchschnittlich ist 52 Jahre, also bei Frauen liegt das mit 53 und bei den Männern ist das 51. Der Grund ist natürlich der Krieg, der leider seit 40 Jahren in diesem Land herrscht. Wenn man da sieht, Analphabetenrate bei Frauen liegt in 49% und bei den Männer 49% und Frauen 58%. Das ist leider sehr, sehr hoch. Natürlich ist auch der Krieg dafür verantwortlich. Kommt etwas?
Du musst daher klicken.
Also, soll ich dort kommen?
Also zumindest da hier klicken, weil da ist das Gerät. Das geht schon von dort da. Das ist schon da. Okay. Das ist nur dahin ziehen. Dahin ziehen.
The signal is going from your hand to
Also ich würde sagen, die erste Revolution der Frauenrechte hatte es eigentlich in Afghanistan in den 19. Jahrhundert begonnen. Das heißt, ein König namens Amir Abdurrahman Khan hat den ersten Dekret betreffend der Frauenrechte erlassen und er war König zwischen 1880 bis 1901. Bei diesem Dekret hat er Kinderheirat verboten. Es war dort so üblich, dass die Mädchen entweder ungeboren verlobt wurden und als sie geboren worden sind, dann sind auch gleich verlobt worden. Durch diesen Dekret hat König den Mädchen diese Wahlmöglichkeit gegeben, wenn sie einmal erwachsen sind. Entweder stimmen sie diese Verlobung zu oder akzeptieren sie das nicht. Darüber hinaus wurde für sie auch die Erbschaftsregelung gegeben. Damals hatten die Frauen, obwohl das im Islam eine Pflicht ist, aber die Frauen hatten einfach kein Erbrecht gehabt. Und er hat durch diesen Dekret das auch geregelt und auch den Frauen diese Möglichkeit gegeben, dass sie Besitz haben könnten. Das war eigentlich eine Revolution, obwohl der König selbst Analphabet war, aber seine Frau war eine gebildete Frau und dann hat auch der König versucht, auch selbst eine Bildung zu genießen, weil ihm sehr peinlich war, nachdem seine Frau ihm Briefe geschickt hat und er die Briefe von seinem Stiftführer lesen lassen. Dann hat er selbst auch sicher hat versucht, dann lesen und schreiben zu können. Nach 1903 ist dann ein Schriftsteller, ein sehr berühmter Afghane namens Mahmoud Tarzi, der einmal Bürgermeister von Istanbul war, ist nach Afghanistan gekommen und nachdem er hier von den Fortschritten beeinflusst war, hat er auch versucht, weitere Schritte in die Richtung Reformen der Frauen zu machen. Er hat dann auch eine Frauenzeitung herausgegeben, wo eigentlich auch über die Frauenthemen Bezug genommen wurde. Politische Reformen haben teilweise unter dem König Amanullah Khan stattgefunden. Er war zwischen 1919 und 1929 der König von Afghanistan gewesen. Unter ihm sind die Mädchenschulen gegründet worden. Mädchen wurden ins Ausland geschickt, zum Beispiel in die Türkei geschickt, oder hat es auch seine Frau war Bildungsministerin oder Unterrichtsministerin gewesen. Darüber hinaus wurde in der Verfassung die Gleichberechtigung der Frauen, die Gleichberechtigung der Frauen und Männer in Verfassung festgeschrieben. Ich glaube, damals ist das in vielen europäischen Ländern nicht der Fall gewesen. Nach dem Sturz von König haben diese ganzen Reformen einen Rückschlag erlitten. Das heißt, alles ist auf Null gesunken, haben Frauen alles, was sie bis dahin erreicht haben, verloren. Da ist ein, sage ich unter Anführungszeichen, ein Räuber mit der Unterstützung von Engländern an die Macht gebracht worden, und ja, da war dann die Frauenrechte und Frauen- und Menschenrechte überhaupt kein Thema mehr. Nach dem Sturz dieser König ist dann dieser Räuber ist dann der nächste König an die Macht gekommen, Nader Shah, und er hat dann versucht, mit Vorsicht die Reformen voranzutreiben. Nicht so, würde ich sagen, so aggressiv wie der König von Amanullah Khan, sondern die haben eher versucht, dann langsam und mit Vorsicht voranzugehen. In den 50er Jahren sind dann die Universitäten für die Frauen geöffnet worden. Es gab damals nur eine Fakultät, wo die Frauen ihre Ausbildung genießen konnten, und erst im 1959 ist die Schleierpflicht dann entfallen. Das heißt, dass in einer Zeremonie der Unabhängigkeit ohne Vorankündigung hat der König und der damalige Premierminister, die Hochbeamten, die Minister und seine Familie die Frauen sind ohne Schleier in der Öffentlichkeit aufgetreten. Da muss ich sagen, dass auch meine Mutter damals eine von ihnen war, die bei dieser Zeremonie die Schleier abgegeben hatte. 1964 ist die moderne Verfassung Afghanistan geschrieben worden, und in dieser Verfassung wurden den Frauen auch Wahlrecht anberaumt. Das heißt, die Frauen dürften in passiven und Aktivwahlen teilnehmen. sie haben dieses Recht auch in Anspruch genommen. Wir haben die nächsten Wahlen haben in 1965 stattgefunden und an diesem Jahr haben sich Frauen kandidiert und sie sind zu Parlamentarierinnen gewählt worden und auch hatten wir Ministerinnen im Kabinett. Das heißt, im Jahre 1965, wir hatten im Parlament Parlamentarierinnen und Ministerinnen, was in der Schweiz eigentlich nicht der Fall war. Nach Militärputsch im 1978 hat wieder eine Welle der intensiven Reformen begonnen. Da sind wieder Frauen ins Ausland geschickt worden, waren sehr viele in der Öffentlichkeit präsent gewesen, aber dann kam die russische Besatzung. Unter der russischen Besatzung würde ich sagen, war wieder ein Rückschlag in den ländlichen Gebieten. Das heißt, dass gegen die russische Besatzung ein Kampf der Widerstand begonnen hat. Und dieser Widerstandskampf natürlich ist in den ländlichen Gebieten getragen worden, in den Provinzen, und die Frauen konnten nur in den Städten ihre Rechte in Anspruch nehmen. Nach dem Sturz von Dr. Najibullah wurde die Macht durch die Mujahideen übernommen. Das war im 1992. Nachdem die Mujahideen die Macht übernommen haben, der erste Präsident der Mujahideen hat durch einen offiziellen Dekret die Schulen, die Mädchenschulen als Zentren der Prostitution genannt und die Schulen dann schließen lassen. Damals gab es im Kabinett 2 Ministerinnen. Sie haben alle Minister geladen, um sie sozusagen zu entlassen, aber auf einer sehr erniedrigenden Weise im Fernsehen haben sie verkündet, dass die Frauen, die 2 Ministerinnen, dürfen eigentlich gar nicht zum Präsidenten kommen. Sie sind entlassen worden. Das war ein nächster Rückschlag für die Rechte der Frauen in Afghanistan. Auch drakonische Strafen sind bei Gesetzverletzungen durch die Frauen umgesetzt worden. Zu dieser Zeit ist auch zu Steinigungen gekommen und zu Handabhacken und so weiter. Nach der Machtübernahme durch die Taliban im 1996 hat sich die Lage für die Frauen nicht verändert. Das ist so geblieben wie in der Zeit der Mujahideen. Die einzige Verschlechterung unter Anführungszeichen war, dass sie noch dazu einen Ganzkörperschleier tragen mussten, nämlich Burka tragen mussten. Also die Schulen wurden vor den Taliban geschlossen worden, die Universitäten wurden vor Taliban geschlossen worden. Ich wurde gezwungen, mir wurde mein Selbstbestimmungsrecht genommen worden. Ich durfte mich nicht so anziehen, wie ich wollte. Ich durfte mich nicht so verhalten, wie ich wollte. Ich war in Afghanistan damals Staatsanwältin. Nach der Niederlage der Taliban wurden die Schulen wieder geöffnet, die Universitäten sind wieder geöffnet worden, die Frauen durften wieder in die Öffentlichkeit auftreten, erscheinen, sie haben auch wieder arbeiten dürfen aber das Problem war, dass das in manchen Gebieten für die Mädchen oder beziehungsweise für die Frauen das gefährlich war. Es sind auch einige Frauenrechtsaktivistinnen getötet worden. Das war zum Beispiel in Kandahar, in Laghman, die sind getötet worden. Für die Mädchen gab es nicht nur für die Mädchen, sondern auch für die Buben aufgrund der langjährigen Krieg keine Infrastruktur vorhanden. Es gab keine. Es gibt noch immer keine Schulen und keine Infrastruktur dafür, dass sie zumindest das Recht, das sie haben, das sie in Anspruch nehmen können. Aber es ist, da muss ich halt hier auch wieder anhaken, dass der Krieg wiederum in den Gebieten, wo Krieg herrscht, ein Hindernis für die Mädchen ist, die Schule zu besuchen bzw. zu arbeiten oder in der Öffentlichkeit aufzutreten. Das sind meistens im Süden Afghanistan, Südosten und teilweise auch Südwesten. Es gibt Dörfer oder Gegenden, wo in den letzten 18 Jahren keinen einzigen Schüler oder Schülerin an die Gesellschaft eigentlich präsentiert hat, weil sie einfach diese Möglichkeiten nicht hatten, keine Schulen und auch gefährlich war. Derzeit schätzungsweise gehen 5 bis 6 Millionen Kinder in die Schule, aber weiterhin gehen 3 bis 6 Millionen nicht in die Schule. Also diese Möglichkeit besteht für sie nicht. Also diese instabile Situation natürlich erhöht das Risiko von Gewalt gegenüber den Frauen. Ja, das ist leider ein großes Problem weiterhin. Möglichkeiten sind sehr, sehr eingeschränkt, die Frauen vor dieser Gewalt zu schützen. Ein weiteres Problem ist die unzureichende medizinische Versorgung. Das heißt, in den ländlichen Gebieten gibt es keine Schulen, keine Frauenärztinnen, keine Spitäler, nichts. Einfach die Frauen sind auf sich alleine gelassen. Es ist zwar nach der Verfassung ist eine Quote für die Frauen im Parlament festgestellt worden, das ist 25%. Diese 25% wird auch in Anspruch genommen, das heißt 25% der Parlamentarier in Afghanistan sind Frauen, und auch die Gleichberechtigung ist im Artikel 22 des Verfassungsgesetzes festgeschrieben worden. Und derzeit haben wir 3 Ministerinnen im Kabinett und mehrere Staatssekretärinnen und auch hohe Positionen haben die Frauen, aber immer nur in der Hauptstadt Kabul und in ein paar Provinzen. Und das darf man nicht vergessen, dass Afghanistan für ca. 35 Millionen Einwohner hat und in Kabul schätzungsweise 6 Millionen sind. Kabul ist nicht das ganze Land. Derzeit werden auch mehrere Frauen ins Ausland geschickt und natürlich, das ist eine Verbesserung der Situation der Frauen, aber das ist immer auf die Städte eingeschränkt. Und da ist dieses Stadt-Land-Gefälle dann wiederum sehr groß. Und wenn das groß ist, das heißt, dass wir keinen großen Fortschritt gemacht haben, weil diejenigen, die am Land sind, für diese Leute ist eigentlich dann dieser Fortschritt nicht akzeptabel, weil sie das einfach nicht kennen. Ich habe vorgestern gelesen, dass erfreulicherweise 68.000 Frauen im Bildungsbereich in den Schulen und Universitäten beschäftigt sind und 10.000 Frauen sind im medizinischen Bereich als Ärztinnen und Krankenschwestern tätig. Was wir aber weiterhin weit weg davon sind, das ist unser Selbstbestimmungsrecht. Das, was wir in den 60er und 70er Jahren und sogar 80er Jahren hatten, das haben wir nicht mehr. Und das haben wir trotz Anwesenheit von 46 Ländern in Afghanistan nicht erreicht. Und 900 Milliarden Euro oder Dollar, die in Afghanistan ausgegeben, unter Anführungszeichen ausgegeben worden sind, haben wir da nichts erreicht. Ich habe leider letztens ein Foto von Frauen um einen runden Tisch mit dem Präsidenten Ghani gesehen. Da war keine einzige Frau ohne Schleier, ohne Ganzkörperschleier. Alle Frauen mit blauen Burken vor dem Präsidenten sitzen und die Gesichter sind auch zu, also das ist runter. Der Präsident konnte keine Frau, also das Gesicht von keiner Frau sehen. Und ich weiß es nicht, also der Invasion oder die Besatzung hat aus diesem Grund begonnen, dass die Frauen in Afghanistan unterdrückt werden. Die müssen ja Burka tragen, die müssen ja Schleier tragen. Was haben wir da gemacht? Und was haben wir in diesen 18 Jahren außer Töte, Krieg und Zerstörung erreicht? Vielleicht alle wissen, dass zwischen den Taliban und der USA direkte Verhandlungen stattfinden. Das ist die 6. Runde ist zu Ende gegangen und jetzt ist der Sondergesandte Khalilzad wieder in der Gegend, er ist wieder in Afghanistan und die 7. Runde wird beginnen. Bei diesen 6 Runden war Frauenrechte kein Thema. Die Frauen waren bei diesen Gesprächen gar nicht beteiligt. Man hat ihnen diese Möglichkeit einfach nicht gegeben. Die Frauen in Afghanistan sind sehr, sehr besorgt. Und sie haben wieder Angst von diesen Rückschlägen, die sie immer wieder in der Vergangenheit erleiden haben müssen. Es ist ein Unterschied jetzt bei diesen Gesprächen. Die Frauen, die in Urbanen sind, die wollen nicht auf jeden Preis eine Friedensverhandlung oder zu einem Friedensvertrag zwischen den Taliban und Amerika. Sie wollen das einfach nicht, weil sie eben Angst haben, dass sie wieder zu Hause bleiben müssen, dass sie wieder nicht arbeiten dürfen, dass sie vielleicht auch nicht in die Schule gehen dürfen. Aber die Frauen, die unter Kriegszustand sind, sie wollen auf jeden Preis, sie sind bereit, auf jeden Preis das Ende des Konfliktes. Und das ist auch natürlich verständlich, weil jede Nacht wird dort Razzien geführt, wird bombardiert, die jungen Menschen werden verschleppt oder getötet oder kleine Kinder werden getötet. Diese Frauen sind bereit auf jeden Preis. Sie verzichten lieber auf ihre Rechte, aber wollen einen Frieden. So, wir haben von Muttersterblichkeit gesprochen. Das ist eine also kommt nicht.
Nochmal weiter?
Aha, okay. Also wie wir bereits gesagt haben, Muttersterblichkeit die ist eine der größten der Welt. Die haben katastrophale Lebensbedingungen. Wie gesagt, sie sind allein auf sich gelassen, keine Unterstützung. Begrenzte Versorgungsmöglichkeiten und um diese Schwierigkeiten, diese Probleme etwas zu lindern, wir haben im Rahmen von 5 Hebammenprojekte 216 Frauen in Nangarhar, Badakhshan und Laghman als Midwife Hebammen, regionale Hebammen ausgebildet. Da diesen Frauen werden nach der Kurs dann Erste-Hilfe-Koffer gegeben und außerdem sie bekommen auch ein Zertifikat dafür, dass sie das dann auch verwenden können und dass sie da in diesem Bereich dann auch arbeiten dürfen. Die Möglichkeiten über die Bildung haben wir auch gesprochen, dass sie auch sehr begrenzt sind und die Analphabetenrate sehr hoch ist. Daher, obwohl unsere Tätigkeit ein Tropfen auf heißem Stein ist, aber wir haben eine Schule mit der Unterstützung der Stadt Wien und zur Entwicklungszusammenarbeit des Außenministeriums und dann die Folge ADA, eine Schule für 200 Mädchen in 6 Klassen bauen lassen. Aber diese Schule wird dann, das war im Jahr 2005 die Eröffnung, und die Schule wird von 1500 Mädchen besucht. Also so waren die Klassenzimmer der Schülerinnen und Schüler, so haben sie gelernt, bevor wir die Schule bauen lassen. Das ist die Grundsteinlegung, dass ich dabei war, und das ist der Provinzgouverneur, der auch dabei war. Das ist die ganze Provinzverwaltung, die mich begleitet haben, und das war der freudige Tag für mich, die Schuleröffnung. Wir haben die Schule eröffnet, und das sind die glücklichen Mädchen, die jetzt ein Dach über den Kopf haben und in diese Schule gehen. Also danke für die Aufmerksamkeit, das war's.
Danke vielmals für diesen beeindruckenden Bericht. Nicht immer einen glücklichen Bericht. Maybe for a first question to Minister AZAM, how do you see the interest of the Taliban today? I read also I think it was in the New York Times, that there was a round of women, I think they discussed things with the deputy leader of the Taliban, where he seemed to have promised that the Taliban today will, or for the future, will have a different attitude towards education, towards the role of women. How the Taliban changed their attitude? What is their interest? Is their interest just to be part of the power, part of the influence, or is the old ideology, so to say, still prevalent in their attitude? Maybe you can a bit explain who are the Taliban today, at least.
The Taliban are part of the Afghan society, and their majority of the leadership is coming from the area where I come, and this is why I know them very well. And also, when I was part of the resistance against the Soviet Union, they belong to different parties, but I was either helping their parents, fathers, or themselves, the old people. So I know them in one way or another. They are part of the society. But the society itself, where I come, they are more conservative compared to other parts. One, since they are part of the society, they are more conservative. Some Taliban from other parts of Afghanistan, they are more open-minded compared to those who are coming from my area. But the Taliban, I think they have changed, as others also changed. We changed, because the last 18 years, billions of dollars from the United States and the West poured in Afghanistan. It changed many people, some for better, some for worse. And the Taliban also changed because they were crushed with a full might. They understand who the West is, or who the Americans are. Before, they were not realizing that. Now they realize. Before, they were product of far remote villages that some of them even not gone to big cities. And they were raised there, they were born there, raised there. And certainly some of the villages which I have seen, the mullahs who were not part of Taliban, they're teachers. They didn't know even Afghanistan, how many provinces Afghanistan had at that time. They didn't know the world at all. So the Taliban were product of that type of environment. Now they are changed. They are going to the United States, going to Europe, going to Moscow, going to Tehran, going to this country, to that. And I remember when I was young, before this Taliban movement, in the areas where the Taliban came out, television was quite not good thing to see. So Taliban was product of that. Now, in every house of the Taliban, there is television. So it has changed. The internet was not good. Even it will be quite interesting for you. In 1996, when the Taliban took power, I was minister. The president and I, we fled from the Taliban. So he went to the north and tried to resist, and I went to Saudi Arabia, where my brother was living. I took refuge there. In Saudi Arabia, the clergies were saying to youth, don't see internet, it is not good. The internet was not good, even in Saudi Arabia. So among the Taliban, of course, that was very bad. Now, when I see them in Qatar, I saw them, all of them are busy with seeing internet and saying it. So this is a change. And I think big change has come to them. But one must not expect the big changes in different ways, because human beings change gradually. They learn from mistakes, they learn from crashes, they learn from... So, as in the Kabul government, many changes came. There many things improved, many good things happened because of the international community assistance. But still, the Kabul government has not achieved what we wanted. In spite of the whole international assistance, we wanted more. I think the Taliban are changed, but we must expect more.
For open the floor to other questions, how do you see the interest of the neighbors? You spoke about the neighbors, that they would, cooperate with some fractions if they are in the government. Sometimes I could read that there is an evaluation of the neighbors that they are not interested in having stability in Afghanistan, especially Pakistan. Is that true, or are there groups in Afghanistan, maybe also in Tehran and Iran, who are quite happy about if the conflict is going on, the internal conflict is going on? Or how would you evaluate the influence of these two big neighbors?
Yes, many people in Afghanistan also believe that probably conflict in Afghanistan is in the interest of our neighbors. I believe the otherwise. I think a stable Afghanistan is good for our neighbors. Because if there is a fire in your neighboring house, you must be worried. I mean, every country must be worried if there is a war. And Iran is worried, Pakistan is worried. The problem, I don't think that they are interested in the trouble of Afghanistan. They want trouble in Afghanistan. I think the major problem is that they cannot coordinate their interest in Afghanistan. This is the big problem among them. The Russians invaded and the Afghans resisted. When the Russians went out, our neighbors thought that they have to fill the vacuum. I think they had the right to one extent because they were the neighbors. But they could not coordinate among themselves. And this is why the rivalry, India and Pakistan, they are not good. Pakistan into Iran, Iran into Saudi Arabia, and this and this. So all these conflict of interest, they are manifested in Afghanistan in one way or another. The problem is that. And this time, which I'm in contact with Americans, with our neighbors, in which when I said that Americans are decided, they think that they have to go out with kind of responsible going out. That is a good sign that to give opportunity to our neighbors to coordinate their efforts, to not make rivalry over filling the vacuum, because the Americans must not give opportunity to them to think that there is a vacuum and they have to fill the vacuum. So if there is a kind of a peaceful settlement, negotiated settlement, and the Americans hope that, so that will be a good answer. So I don't think our neighbors want unstable Afghanistan. I think they are not able, due to circumstances, to coordinate their interest in the country.
Thank you. So we have a question. You can put them in English or in German, and can be, yes, please. The first one here, the second here.
Ja, danke schön. Ich werde auf Deutsch reden. Also zuerst, Herr Doktor, danke schön, dass Sie über Afghanistan, über die politische Lage Afghanistan und vor allem über die Konflikt zwischen der afghanischen Government und also Regierung und Taliban und die zukünftige politische System sich geäußert haben. Es tut mir leid, ich muss sagen, da sind so viele Widersprüche, dass Sie jetzt gesagt haben, zuerst einmal Sie reden, dass die Regierung Afghanistan ist, das ist auch Warlord. Das stimmt nicht. Ein oder zwei Mitglieder kann sein, dass sie Warlord sind. Abdullah war einmal Warlord. Die Warlords sind gegen Ashraf Ghani. Sie haben in Moskau teilgenommen, alle Warlords. Weil Warlords verstehen sich mit Warlords. Also Taliban sind also Fundamentalisten mit Fundamentalisten. Der Ashraf Ghani ist auf der Seite geblieben. Ich weiß nicht warum. Warum macht der Amerikaner so einen großen Fehler? Zweitens. Dankeschön, Frau Magister MALYAR. Sie haben so ein reales Bild gegeben über Afghanistan, über Vergangenheit, der jetzige. Wir haben in den letzten 18 Jahren viel erreicht. 5 bis 6 Millionen Kinder gehen in die Schule. Das haben die Taliban verboten. Da gab es keine. Sie zerstören bis jetzt die Schule. Jeden Tag. Wir haben so viele Toleranz und Geduld, wie die Frau MALYAR hat gesagt. Wir haben keine andere Wahl. Wir sind in Geisel genommen. Wir müssen zu einer Friede die Augen zumachen und sagen, okay, egal. Aber wir werden diese Realität, was die Taliban gemacht haben, was die Warlords gemacht haben, sie waren auch ein Mitglied von diesen Warlords-Regierung, ein Minister, wo sie damals in 1992, ich war, Frau Magister MALYAR ist auch eine Zeuge, ich war auch als Universitätslehrer dort, 70.000 Zivilisten sind in ein paar Monaten gestorben. Und sie waren als Mitglied dieser Regierung. Und da waren diese Resistance Powers, Movement. Sie haben das gemacht. Und jetzt leider, wir müssen irgendwie die Lösung finden. Und Sie sagen, die Lösung ist eine neutral Government. Bitte, Sie haben gesagt, dass welche Election Commission, wir vertrauen der Election Commission von Ashraf Ghani oder der Regierung nicht, welche Wahlkommission wird jetzt wird entscheiden über diese neutral Government, dass sie Konstitution machen, dass sie Power, also da muss und noch was, entschuldigen Sie, die Regierung, also die Nachbarländer haben kein Recht, uns was zu diktieren, inklusive die Russians. Sie waren gegen Russen und jetzt geben sie die Nachbarn, ich meine, was sie meinen, die Iraner und die Pakistaner Recht, uns was zu diktieren. Nein, wir lassen das nicht. Sie haben unser Land zerstört. Ich bitte Sie um Ihre Meinung jetzt. Welche neutrale Government, also Regierung, wollen Sie? Wenn ich weiß, da sind tausende Fraktionen, also Dutzende Fraktionen, glauben Sie, die haben Macht, die haben bewaffnete Leute in Afghanistan. Sie werden einfach zuschauen, dass die oder eine neutrale Regierung in der Macht kommt. Nein, das glaube ich nicht. Dankeschön.
Gut, so eine Fülle von Fragen. Ja. Vielleicht.
Yes. Thank you very much. I think you did quite good remarks. The warlords, I do not say warlords, the whole Western world is saying warlords. I mean, the Americans, the Europeans, the NATO, they say warlords. I have not put this name upon them. So if you see Armakora report of the United Nations, they put all the record on the UN Office of Human Rights. And in 2008, when there was Human Rights Commission in Afghanistan make several years work report upon the human rights, the very institution, the Human Rights Commission in Afghanistan, told to the President Karzai not to declare this commission report. It is dangerous because the human rights abusers are on the top of the government. If you disclose this will be a kind of very bad impact on the government. So these are all the things that international community, the Afghan government, the whole media is saying, the Afghans. So it is not the creation of myself. In matter of fact, some of these people who are labeled warlords, they are my friends. I mean, I know them, I sit with them, but it is the reality on the ground. So that is. Yes, the Taliban closed schools. I criticized them as I said, I fled from the Taliban. I was part of the government of Mr. Rabbani. So yes, so we criticize, and I also explained that they were coming from a very backward type of rural areas, and Mr. Chairman put me a question whether they have changed. I said little, yes, little changed, but more are needed to change. So this is my view still, and the same, the warlords changed. Their children are educating now the best schools in the West. I mean, they are not doing the same things that they were doing in 1993 when there was fighting, inter-faction fighting in Kabul, and these warlords were fighting among each other, and I was begging to them not to fight, and they were 65,000 Kabul inhabitants left their homes, and they were in trouble, and I regret that was. And then there was the act of the warlords, I mean, who are in power now. So yes, they changed also, they regret. Iran and Pakistan, we must not allow them to dictate. Yes, I agree with you. I mean, yes, what other countries should dictate? My presentation was an answer to the question of Mr. Chairman, whether our neighbors want stability or non-stability in Afghanistan. I said, in my view, they want stability as our neighbors. Every neighbor wants. But the problem is, because of my long experience with them and my long experience in Afghan affairs, they have rivalries, bitter rivalries, and they cannot coordinate their interest in Afghanistan. So that is the problem. For example, just I want to a little bit clear it. If Pakistan do something in Afghanistan, for example, want to build an hospital, India think that Pakistan has taken 2 steps. Must take 4 steps in order to match. When the India takes 4 steps, Pakistan think, oh, I'm quite behind, I have to take. Sometimes those steps are against the interest of the country. They are not taking these steps for the reconstruction. They are taking those steps for the otherwise. So this mistrust they have, Iran, in Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and other like this, all these suspicions, when one take 1 step, another think, okay, I'm behind, I have to take 2 steps. So when the government in Afghanistan is weak, like we have today, so that cannot manage these regional powers. No. And this is why in my presentation, when there was the neutral administration which I proposed, I said no one should come with money bags and spend by their own way. This is my NGO, this is I'm giving money to this individual, to this tribe, to that group, and supporting some, impressing another into muting. So no, the government must be respected by everyone, and the government must be the only source of receiving money, and that must have the priorities where to spend, where to not. So this is why I am trying to minimize the interference of foreign countries, whether that is big countries or big countries of the region. Gradually things must go to the hands of the Afghans, but it takes time, it needs work. Right now, imagine 96 to 98% the government expenditure comes from the US and NATO countries. Well, what do you think? whether they do not have any say in the internal affairs of Afghanistan? Yes, they have. Those who are giving you food, they expect you something. So my presentation is, my kind of formula is that we have to gradually minimize and build the country and tell to our supporters, our friends, that they have to help us this way. So the managerial power must go to Afghans. This is my whole idea. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Ich werde kurz dazu was sagen. Ich bin auch der Meinung, dass unsere Nachbarn niemals daran interessiert war, in Afghanistan eine stabile Regierung zu herrschen. Sie haben immer ihre Interessen in Afghanistan gesucht. In Afghanistan ist seit 40 Jahren ein Stellvertreterkrieg, damals zwischen Amerika, westliche Welt und die Russen. Und heutzutage ist dieser Krieg zwischen Pakistan und Indien. Beide Länder suchen ihre Interessen und deswegen wird Afghanistan nicht stabil, bis diese Nachbarn sich in unseren Angelegenheiten nicht mehr einmischen. Und das ist der Grund für die Dauer des Krieges, weil wenn Pakistan das wollte, dann hätte es so wie die Zeit der Taliban, da hat Pakistan sich nicht eingemischt. Sie haben die Taliban unterstützt. In Afghanistan gab es eine ganz stabile Regierung. Die ganze Warlords sind geflüchtet und auf Kosten der Menschenrechte gab es eine stabile Regierung, eine Sicherheit, dass das in der Geschichte von Afghanistan nur zu Zeiten von Amir Abdurrahman Khan gegeben hat. Das ist klar, dass die Nachbarn sich immer wieder einmischen und ihre Interessen in unserem Land suchen. Danke.
Danke. Bitte, Herr. Hier eine Wortmeldung, dann hier und dann hier. Bitte.
I have a couple of questions regarding some of the remarks which were made here, especially in regards with the neighboring countries and Pakistan and the Taliban. I think Taliban were overwhelmingly understated. Like the statement made on the Taliban, I think is overwhelmingly understated. I think the intelligence sources, the governments from Afghanistan, from United States, from the regional powers, they all call them the proxies of Pakistan. They're fighting for the interests of Pakistan. They're promoting Pakistan's interests in the region, whether you call them the deep interest for Pakistan, whatever. They are the proxies. I don't know what would you say to that. The other point in that regard is the Hafiz Saeed. You know Hafiz Saeed. He was the founder of Lashkar-e-Tayyiba, a global terrorist network that he established, and then it changed its name to Jamaat al-Dawa, and it's operating unrestricted in Punjab, which has 60% of the 200 million population in Pakistan. And this is the group that sent thousands of fighters to Syria and Iraq to fight alongside ISIS. And now the same group is sending these ISIS fighters to Afghanistan, supporting and equipping ISIS in Afghanistan. But, and of course this guy has $10 million bounty on his head. But what Pakistan has done? Of course nothing. And he's been free and nothing has been done. On the peace process, maybe because you said your suggestion is a neutral government, an interim neutral government. And from your perspective, because I know you've been engaged with peace negotiations, or some directly or indirectly, And from your view, who is a hurdle in the peace process? Is it President Ghani? Because his recent picks like Amrullah Saleh is clearly a sabotage to the peace process. Is it the Taliban who is a hurdle for peace? Is it the Americans? Or again, is it really Pakistan, the main hurdle? And do you think, because there were rumors that that you were going to, if there is a neutral interim government, you were going to lead this neutral government? Is that true? And my last question is on Ms. MALYAR. Yesterday you took part in this demo to support the Pashtun Tahaffuz protection movement in Vienna. I want to ask this question for both of you, because this is a civil rights movement, a peaceful activists in Pakistan have been cracked down and oppressed brutally. And thousands and thousands of them have been disappeared and extrajudicially killed along the border with Afghanistan, and of course it's part of today's Pakistan. So what, I mean, this is again done by Pakistani military, Pakistan's intelligence. So what do you say to that, to this extrajudicial killings and forced disappearance? And of course, this has been verified by Amnesty International. Thank you.
Thank you. It seems you are not from the Pakistan embassy anyway. Yes, please.
Yes. Taliban are the proxies of Pakistan. He asked whether, I assume people sitting here, they have a background a little bit. I assume that people understand who is behind the government of Kabul, who is behind the government behind the Taliban. So this is, we are not here to discuss all these things, who supports the Afghan government, who supports the Taliban. So I'm here to how we can find a solution. After 18 years, these questions are already solved.
Free election.
Okay, I mean, election was one of the things that we discussed. The other, Pakistan is supporting terrorism, which is not my business to talk about this. This is the job of the United States of America, who is guarantor of the world peace and order, to find out, to trace this and to find out how much Pakistan is supporting terrorism. In my view, Pakistan outside the NATO is the more ally of the United States. And the United States has declared this. So if the United States is so close friend of Pakistan, and yet your question about the Taliban, Saeed and other, so that should be dealt with the United States, how that deal with. Who is the hurdle? Who blocks the peace process? My experience dictates that on both sides, the Taliban and the Afghans, as well as the American side, there are people against a peaceful settlement, because some people have interest in the war. not only in the government, Afghan government. You mentioned Ghani, Saleh, and those. No, not only in the Taliban side, there are people who want the war continue, and also the American side, there are people to the war continue. My experience is that all in warring factions, there are people they insist on war, but the Afghans and the peace lovers within the international community, they must not be hostage at the hand of the warmongers. They have to find the way out. Myself, I do not know. Thank you very much. This is probably I have no information about this. But I, as a servant of the nation, always I have for long years. At the time when there was a civil war, there was in 1993, I put myself in danger, and I told you 83 times I traveled shuttled between Rabbani and Hikmatyar, the president, and his prime minister, to bring peace. I mean, that was under the rain of the bullet. I, along with my colleagues, we were shuttling. The same now. I'm always in Kabul. I am going to provinces. I preach peace, which is quite dangerous sometimes. That you do not have bodyguards, you do not have people to go with you. You are going alone and addressing hundreds of people and say, we want peace. And there are, as I told you, there are many against peace when you are exposed to them. But I do this. I travel. All the world I travel. I go to every quarter who oppose peace. I reach myself there. I am going around the world telling them peace in Afghanistan. So it is a dangerous job, but I'm going to do it. About the Pashtunkhwa Tahaffuz movement, I have very little attachment because I am so busy with this. I understand that they were under pressure. I understand that the Pashtuns, that side of Durand line, they were under different pretexts. They were massacred, they were under pressure, they were bombarded. I know many things. But since I'm so preoccupied with my own job, so I have little time to. I wish I had time, but I don't. So I am quite busy, preoccupied with this. If we are able to put a bucket of water and our fire to be extinguished. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Please.
Ich möchte das sehr gerne sagen, dass ich Herrn Dr. Azam über BBC kennengelernt habe, über seine Interviews zu dieser Zeit, dieser sehr schlechten Bürgerkriegszeit, als ich noch in Afghanistan war, und wir haben jeden Tag BBC gehört und mit der Hoffnung, dass Herr Dr. Azam uns wieder über einen Waffenstillstand berichten würde, und das ist 2-3 Mal ihm gelungen für 2-3 Tage, dass die Menschen zumindest etwas einkaufen konnten oder Medikamente oder die Kranken ins Spital bringen konnten. Aber leider ist das ihm nicht sehr oft gelungen, weil die beiden Kriegsparteien einander so verhasst hatten, dass sie eigentlich auf die zivile Bevölkerung in der Hauptstadt Kabul überhaupt keine Rücksicht genommen. Ich stimme dem Herrn Doktor zu, dass in dieser Zeit 65.000 Zivilisten in diesem Krieg zu Tode gekommen sind. Die ganze Hauptstadt ist zu 90% zerstört worden, das ist richtig. Aber ich habe Herrn Dr. Azam nur das so im Kopf, dass er hin und her gelaufen ist, um zu einem Waffenstillstand zwischen den bekämpften Parteien zu kommen. Zu Pashtun Tahaffuz Movement möchte ich sagen, das ist die pakistanische Regierung, beziehungsweise die Regierung ist eine Marionettenregierung, das ist die Militär, die dort die Macht haben und das Sagen haben. Sie haben das gezielt hier in Waziristan, also das sind 2 Waziristan, das sind Norden und Süden. Sie haben absichtlich hier Terroristen und Al-Qaida versteckt, ihnen Platz gegeben, um dann für die Zukunft mit der Unterstützung von Amerikanern diese Gegend unter ihre Kontrolle bringen zu können, weil das war eigentlich im Vertrag von Duran allein, dass das damals zwischen Briten und britischen Indien unterschrieben wurde und das war eigentlich der Außenminister der Engländer damals. In diesem Vertrag ist diese Gegend als Niemandsland festgehalten worden und das war bis jetzt Niemandsland gewesen, aber die pakistanische Regierung und die Armee wollten diese Gegend unter ihre Kontrolle bringen und daher waren die Al-Qaida dort und dann haben sie mit der Unterstützung von Amerikanern mit Drohnen die Pashtunen, die Stammesführer, eigentlich 3000 von ihnen getötet, ihre Häuser sind zerstört worden. Waziristan, ich habe Fotos von Waziristan gesehen, Waziristan ist mehr als Kabul in den 90er Jahren zerstört worden. Die ganze Wirtschaftsfinanzen ist von ihnen weggenommen worden, 5 Millionen Pashtunen sind von hier vertrieben worden, ihre Häuser verloren und sie wohnen irgendwo in irgendwelchen Zelten. Also von Bildung wieder getrennt, keine Schulen, keine Versorgung, nichts haben sie. Und das war eigentlich eine gezielte Aktion gewesen und nachdem Tausende von Menschen verschwunden worden sind, getötet worden, die Häuser zerstört worden sind, ist das eine Bewegung, die von diesen massiven, aggressiven Menschenrechtsverletzungen der pakistanischen Armee entstanden ist. Und dieser junge Mann, Mansour Pashtun, ist eigentlich 25 Jahre alt. Aber er bekommt Unterstützung von Millionen von Pashtunen. In Pakistan sind 30 Millionen Pashtunen, die durch diese Duran-Line von Afghanistan getrennt worden sind. Und er kämpft friedlich mit Demonstrationen. Ihre Demonstrationen sind mit Musik begleitet. Sie sind nicht gewalttätig, sie benutzen keine Gewalt. Sie verlangen nur ihre Rechte auf Leben, die eigentlich in die pakistanische Verfassung verankert ist. Sie wollen nur ihre Grundrechte, aber diese bekommen sie nicht. Und jetzt, ich habe in keinem demokratischen Land auf der Welt gesehen, dass die Parlamentarier aufgrund ihrer politischen Meinung verhaftet werden. Aber diese Ali Wazir und Mohsen Dawar, die sind die Parlamentarier, die von Waziristan Volk gewählt worden sind zum Parlament. Sie sind wegen ihrer politischen Meinungen jetzt sitzen im Haft. Ich habe vorgestern gelesen, dass sie nach Peshawar verlegt worden sind von Waziristan. Oder Abdullah Nangyal Bitanay oder Alam Seb, ja, die sind alle Zivile mit einem friedlichen Protest verlangen sie ihre Rechte. Aber das ist eben, wie gesagt, das ist der Plan von pakistanischer Armee gewesen und das haben sie gezielt getan und sie bringen sie weiterhin um. Sie vergewaltigen ein 10-jähriges Mädchen. Wird ein 10-jähriges Mädchen entführt, vergewaltigt und man sieht Spuren von Gewalt an ihrem Körper. Aber da findet man nicht den Mörder, den Entführer. Ein Polizeioffizier, der 400 Pashtunen in Punjab getötet hat, denn eine von den Forderungen von dieser Demonstration ist, dass man ihn festnimmt, ihn zur Verantwortung zieht. Aber er wird nicht zur Verantwortung gezogen, sondern die Parlamentarier, die demokratisch an einer Demonstration teilgenommen haben, mit Musik, mit Liedern, sie werden verhaftet. Und selbstverständlich so eine Bewegung unterstütze ich. weil sie für ihre Rechte ohne Gewalt kämpfen.
Dankeschön. Kann ich nur gratulieren, dass Sie das unterstützen. So, wir haben jetzt noch 2 Wortmeldungen, die ich nehmen werde, weil dann, glaube ich, sollten wir abschließen. Das ist die Wortmeldung hier und dann die Hand. Nur die Hand, nicht den Kopf. Ja, ich weiß, ja. Aber bitte.
Good evening, my name is Karmanga. I have before I asked you, so like I go on back here.
If you take it to the back.
Okay, it doesn't work.
It should work.
Can you put it on?
Hello?
Yeah, you are.
It doesn't. Okay. My name is Karmanga. Good evening, everybody. I'm very glad to see you here. Before I ask you questions, like I'm going one step back. My experience, like I'm original. I'm from Afghanistan. Russians came to Afghanistan. They killed 1.5 million people from our population. And then, after a while, they come the American. They killed more than 2 million people, Afghans, in Afghanistan. And my question is, do you think the America help for the peace, and they're glad to help with the peace process? This is the question. If you believe them, because I'm a Afghan, I don't believe them. I'm sure, so like they just play, and I'm sure they kill us and beat until they finish this nation. And also they brought the Mr. Karzai in a container as agent. He was not our president, he was an agent. And the second one, they brought the Ghani. Ghani is also agent. As long as I know, as my experience, as my education, I know in the whole world, the agent was not successful for the country. And I'm sure those 2 presidents, they are same as Karmal. Karmal brought Russian to Afghanistan, they killed 1.5 million people, and the Karzai and Ghani, they are the same brothers. They're not different than each other. My question is, last week I met Mr. Khaliza. That was the same question what I asked Mr. Khaliza. Do you think if the Taliban, they bring peace or they helping this peace process, which I don't believe. I know and I am very sure the Taliban are real Afghans. They fight for freedom, they fight for Islam, and we are with Taliban because we know they are real Afghans and we know what they want. They want to build their countries, they build their country, and they want to help their poor Afghan people. And the last question, you as a minister, and as I read your biography, that you are also working with the Islamic organization. The sister asked you a question, or she has a concern about hijab. I think we are Muslim. This is our responsibilities to have. We don't need to have hijab, but we want to have hijab. Our sisters, our moms, we wish and we love that they wear hijab. If you are against, or do you have any answer for this, sister? Please let me know. Thank you.
Can we take the last question? Or?
No, I will give both questions. Both questions. The first question was whether the Americans want peace. He himself answered the question, no. I cannot comment. I think the Americans, I have fought the Russians, I know experience with the Russians, I know experience with the Americans. Sometimes people are coming to you, but they are ready to go out. So you have to cooperate to go out responsibly. So he gave answer, you gave answer to your own question, so there is no need for me to elaborate. The other thing is about hijab. Yes. Hijab is something that we have to preserve. But this is up to the people of the country to think about the circumstances, the way the culture. Here, these people here in this Vienna, probably 100 years ago, they were not the same like today they are. Probably our grandmoms were not wearing this type of clothes as now you are wearing. So the life is like changing, and so let us leave these things to the time when the time comes. The first priority is how to make Afghanistan a peaceful Afghanistan, how to make Afghanistan a stable Afghanistan, how we return back to Afghanistan. 6 million refugees are outside the country, Afghans. Pakistan and Iran, they have complained to me, because one time I was Minister of Refugees. They complained to me that they were burdened upon Pakistan and Iran. I met Ghulam Isa Khan, the president. I met Nawaz Sharif, the prime minister. I met the president of Iran, Rafsanjani. They all complained that the Afghans were burdened upon them, and also the Afghan government also accuses Pakistan and Iran that they are using our refugees against the Afghanistan. They are sending the Afghans to Iraq war, to Syria war, and to different wars conducted by Afghans, and they are taking advantage from the misfortune of the Afghans who are have misery life. They are telling them, okay, I will give you residency, go to Iraq war or to Syria. So there are complaints from the Pakistan and Iran. There are burden complaints from the Afghans. The Afghans the refugees are used illegally. So one of my condition in the interim government, the neutral interim government, was these refugees must come back to Afghanistan. The world must bring them. There must not be excuse for our neighbors and not excuse for Afghans. So thank you very much.
Darf ich dazu sagen? Erstens, ich habe diese Frage von Hijab gar nicht gestellt. Vielleicht hat mein Bruder das falsch verstanden. Zweitens möchte ich sagen, dass die Frauenrechte und ihre aktive Teilnahme in der gesellschaftlichen, politischen und wirtschaftlichen Leben Afghanistans auf Hijab zu reduzieren, das wäre unfair gegenüber den afghanischen Frauen. Afghanistan besteht aus 15 oder über 15 Millionen Frauen, und die gehören in der Gesellschaft aktiv teilzunehmen. Das nur auf Hijab zu reduzieren, das ist unfair, und ich möchte auch nicht, dass man sich auf dieses Thema konzentriert. Selbst wenn ich gegenüber den Taliban auch sitzen würde, werde ich das Thema auf Hijab nicht reduzieren. Hijab ist etwas, das man darüber selbst entscheiden darf, ob ich einen Hijab tragen möchte oder nicht. Das ist richtig, dass das in Islam so vorgesehen ist, aber der liebe Gott hat mir auch diese Chance gegeben, selbst zu entscheiden, und wenn ich etwas falsch mache, dann gehe ich in die Hölle. Aber ich gehe, und an meiner Stelle geht niemand anderer in die Hölle.
Grüß Gott. Ich glaube, ins Mikrofon sprechen. So.
Sehr schön. Ich glaube, die Taliban ist auch ein Instrument wie die Regierung. Ist klare Instrument und unter die Erde Instrument. Diese finanzielle von den Taliban geht durch die Saudi-Arabien und Amerikaner und die anderen Länder. Der Unterschied zwischen den Taliban und der Regierung ist nur, dass es von einem Punkt bekommen die Befehle. Ich weiß es nicht, diese Mujahideen ist einmal weggegangen und die Taliban, durch die Taliban gesetzt. Und wieder Taliban durch die neue Regierung. Ich weiß es nicht, wer glaubt an die alte Mujahideen, dass wieder über die Frieden reden oder über die Sicherheit. Noch ein Punkt. in der Zeit der Taliban war die Sicherheit, weil selber Pakistan hat die Terrorismus dort nicht geschickt. Die Taliban war auch ein Instrument von Pakistan, Saudi-Arabien und Amerikaner. Ich weiß es nicht, wer glaubt an die Bewegung, dass es einmal in die Macht waren und diese über die Millionen Leute von Kabul ist weggegangen und 100.000 Menschen auf der Straße gestorben. Wer glaubt an diese Leute? Ich weiß es nicht. Ich höre die Antwort.
Gut, dann machen wir ein Schlusswort. Final comment?
Yes. Yes, this lady.
Yeah,
now
all of a sudden
I respect ladies because
so
my daughter.
Wait a minute, then the gentleman behind you, and then the lady, and then we finish. The gentleman behind you.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sib Khair Ali. Welcome, Doctor. I'm Atiqullah Rouhani, son of Ahmad Gul Rouhani. I think that
his father, I do not know him, so he just introduced. His father was in the team with me when we were shuttling between warring factions, which I described. Okay. He was a very determined person. I love his father.
Thank you. My question is that what do you think that when Americans go out from Afghanistan, does the Afghan army can defend their country? And the second question is, that is the part of this question. Does the Taliban should continue peace talk or they will continue their fighting?
After what?
After the outgoing of America.
Okay, thank you.
برکنا جبار خیلم لومړی تر هر څه ستاسو د هڅو مننه کوم کوم وطن زما پوښتنه دا ده چې افغانستان په ټول عمر کې
we have in some way we have to have other people understanding what you ask.
Yes, so somebody.
Ja, kann ich translate.
Sie hat sich vorgestellt, sie ist Brikna Jabbar Khail.
افغانستان یعنی په ټول عمر کې د قدرتونو د جنگ میدانو دا ټول ته معلومه ده
Afghanistan war immer ein Platz der Kämpfe der verschiedenen Länder.
نو زه دا سوال کوم چې امارات اسلامي به دغه موازنه څنګه وساتي کله چې دوی مثلا امریکای ته متجاوزین وایي امریکای سره په جنگ یا په هغه کې دي چې باید افغانستان نوځي او تمایل زیات مثلا پاکستان ته لري دلته به د هند څخه کېږي دلته به روسیه څخه کېږي دلته به د نور ملکونه چې موږ ته نږدې ولري دی به څنګه کېږي.
Also die Frage ist, wie könnten die Taliban den sozusagen Ausgleich in der Gegend behalten, weil sie sind eher geneigt zu Pakistan und auch zu verhandeln mit den Amerikanern. In der Gegend gibt es auch Indien, Iran und Russland und andere Länder, die auch ihre Interessen in Afghanistan haben. Wie können die Taliban diesen Ausgleich zwischen diesen Ländern behalten?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Whether the Taliban would continue war when the Americans are out? This was your question. No, I don't think. Because I talked to the Taliban very detailed. They say no. If the Americans go out, there is no point for us to fight, they said. The other part of the question that you put, whether this army will continue. This also, if Americans sees its commitment, its support, financial support to the government. President Ghani has told to Americans very openly that this government may not survive for 6 months. So this is why I relate your question with the question of Prashna Khor, that yes, this is the situation where the Taliban will continue war, whether the Kabul government without American assistance will continue survival or like this. And her question that if the Taliban come to power, who have fought the Americans, for the Pakistan, what Russia, what Iran, what will happen. This is why with many more questions, which is not the place to expose, I have in my mind. This is why I am proposing that a neutral administration is a remedy, because all these countries will sit in their side, in their places, and say, okay, the Taliban are not in power. At the same time, since the Taliban have fought the Kabul government, they will not be in power. So the Taliban will be also sitting in their own place. So all these people will be disarmed under the contract, and they will be directed towards the construction of the country, which I have, if one asks me, I have planned how to recruit them in the country. So because 350,000 Afghan soldiers are only in the government, and imagine some thousands, 10,000 Taliban are fighting. Where they should go now they are in need. When there is peace, we do not need 1.5 million soldiers. You have to tell them, thank you, go. Some of them will remain, but you have to find work for them. You have to find alternative. That is the main job, and one must think about. So that is my answer to you, that many other justifications are for a neutral administration. So if that is the final, I have an announcement.
Yes.
I have. So I'm thankful to all of you, the Institute, and to this audience. My job is, in the many years, I am peace preacher. I don't have home. I'm a homeless man. I have family, lovely family, very good wife, very good children, but for years and years, I am away from them. I begged last night to my wife that I'm very near to you, but I cannot see you. I want to go back to Afghanistan. So this is the situation. Whenever I see people who are coming to hear about peace, I consider them as my brothers and sisters. I love them all. So I love you all. So thank you very much for hearing. It is not necessary that you agree with me of all my points, but I'm sure if you sit with me, you will understand what I mean. The other thing is, I am a water expert by profession. I have studied in water. I have taught at the university in water. I'm a water expert. And I have written books on the Nile River, how disputes come over the Nile River between Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. And I've written books on Euphrates River between Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. I have written books on Helmand River between Afghanistan and Iran. Many other parts of the world I have studied. I have brought 2 books which I'm going to donate. A poor preacher have nothing except books to donate. My book, one book is this one. This is written in English. And this is a model. If anyone in Afghanistan wants to develop an irrigation project by foreign aid, what must do. And this is an example of that. The effects of local, regional, and global politics on the development of the Helmand-Arghandab Valley of Afghanistan. This is why Afghanistan developed the Helmand Valley, how Americans were attracted, the reluctant Americans which were not coming to Afghanistan, and we were begging them and they were not coming, how we attracted them, the skill that we used. And we didn't have skills how to run the project. We did many mistakes. How we recovered, what Iran did when we held the water, what was Pakistan's reaction, what the Americans came to the area not 500 miles away from the Russian border, what the Russian is a big power reaction. So this is kind of film. And this whole book has written on the politics of irrigation project, that how irrigation project can be launched if that is financed by foreign aid. So I am going to donate this to this institute. Poor man doesn't have anything except these books. This book is, the title is Water for Oil and Access to a Seaport. Afghan-Iranian relations over the Helmand River water. The Afghans had water. Iran had a seaport, which we didn't have because we were landlocked. And Iran had oil revenue. We exchanged our water with the oil revenue and access to seaport. We gave more water than Iran was entitled. In exchange, and I explained how, because this is, since I was minister 2 times, I had access to documents, and when I was young, I was a technician, I was part of this negotiation. And the time of Musa Shafiq was in 1973. So that deal was, and also the negotiation in Tehran, in Washington, in Kabul, all I have recorded, how Iran gave us pledge to give us free access to seaport in Chabahar, and how Iran gave us pledge to build railroad from Chabahar to Dilaram, and road from there, the railroad in road, and finance 3 dams upon the river, financed by Iran. So for this, in 1977, Iran gave $2 billion to Dawood Khan, pledged but not received because the US toppled. So this book is written on the Helmand River water, the relations between Iran and Afghanistan. So I am going to donate these 2 books to you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you. Just a brief remark. I hope that Afghanistan will not be victim of sanctions of the US against Iran, also on this project. Seeing you as a water expert, I was surprised that you didn't drink from the wonderful Vienna water. So the glass is still empty, but thank you very much, both of you. That was a very interesting discussion, I think, and presentation. I think, having, you see my age, having seen development in many regions after conflicts, it is an illusion that all of a sudden the conflict will stop. But it would be the worst thing, because conflicts will in some way drag on or will recover again, not to think about peace and not to think about peaceful development. So I only can wish you and you all that your efforts will be of success, because as I said, success is never total. Even in Europe today you see that people having their minds going back to former times when there were conflicts and overcome some of the big successes Europe has got after the Second World War. But I think it is very, very important for us all that peace gets a new chance in Afghanistan. And I don't think any kind of peace is possible without some sacrifices here and there. Let's hope that it's not again women who are the main group of the society who has to bear all or most of the sacrifices. And let's hope that what you said about optimistic about the Taliban, that it is not only some words today and maybe even some, let's say, some intention today, but over time, you know, these good intentions will disappear because there are some people trying to get new prominence and trying to reverse the development. Thank you very much. It was wonderful that you have been here. You made it very clear what your direction is. Thank you very much for your presentation. And let's hope that the next time you make some presentation about the women's development, there will not be a drawback, but at least some stability and maybe some progress as we fight for it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm so happy being in this beautiful country. I've never been in Vienna before. This is my first time when I was coming from the air. I seeing such a beautiful country. Such a beautiful country. Hope we have in future very good relations between two countries. And we take benefit from your experience. When ZERKA was bringing me here, I saw such a beautiful architecture, such beautiful buildings that I love. So beautiful people. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
دوستانو د پاره چې نن چون د ټول ډیسکشن په انګلیش او په جرمني باندې و سبا ته د ډاکټر مالیار په نوي کلینیک کې په 15 بجو باندې ډاکټر صاحب اعظم بیا هم زموږ تاسو په خدمت کې دی که څوک غواړي چې راشي په مینا باندې کولی شي راشي werde ich auf Deutsch sagen, was ich jetzt gesagt habe. Ich habe die anwesenden Afghanen hier für morgen eingeladen, morgen in die Ordination von Dr. Malyar, da haben wir 400 Leute Platz. Herr Dr. Azam steht uns morgen wieder zur Verfügung für diejenigen, die heute die Diskussion nicht ganz verfolgen konnten. Die sind auch morgen herzlich eingeladen.
Thank you. So I thank my translator, my interpreter.
Yes.
You know that she is sitting on my right hand, and right hand is meaning. And of course, she's sitting my left, my heart is here. So both of them. So thank you very much. Thank you.